Hello, welcome. My name's Katie. I'm the news editor of Money Marketing. You're joining us today on Budget Day, a very busy day for us in the office. The team have been busy bringing us all the latest stories, and we've kindly been joined by a couple of industry experts today. We have Andrew Tully from Canada Life, and we have Chris Jones from Dynamic Planner. So thank you both for coming today. It's been a very busy day. You've both already produced some great content for us and going over the budget. Any real surprises today?
I don't think so. I think it was, if we're going back 4 weeks or 5 weeks ago, we would have probably expected perhaps a more dramatic budget, certainly more impact on financial services than we had. But I think a change in Chancellor and also the impact of coronavirus meant countries in a different position to where it was 4 weeks ago. So I think there's kind of bigger fish to fry. There's other things that needed their attention more than financial services. So I think some of the things that we've got might happen, might come along later in the year. Things like pension tax relief might be looked at a later date.
Yeah. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I agree with Andrew. I think there was a lot of things that we were expecting to be in a budget, some things that perhaps were leaked or suggested or trialled on us that we might have expected as soon as the coronavirus happened. You kind of imagined that wouldn't be the case. For me, it was a problem-solving budget, so you could see that he was, knocking over sort of some of the electoral promises that the local MPs had made, as well as obviously the national government, in order to tidy that up and also to deal with the short-term economic problem that the small businesses had. I think obviously that took a front seat against things that perhaps we normally would have been talking about in a day like today.
Yeah. Obviously, new Chancellor for us. How do you think he performed? It was quite a pressured job of less than a month in, obviously all the challenges that we've had as well.
Yeah, I thought performance-wise he did very well. I thought he looked very comfortable, he looked quite cool, and so yes, I thought overall he did very well for being very new into the job. So.
He made me feel old. but he did exude confidence, and that smile that he had on your picture of him in the publication does sort of hopefully give confidence to a nation during difficult times. I wonder if at the end of his term he'll be quite so cheerful and may not even be a little bit grey, but it's very refreshing, I thought.
What do you think financial advisors will make of today's budget? Will there be anything that they really wanted to have seen on it that we haven't been included?
I think from a pension point of view, simplification is always a key driver for definitely for clients, but also for advisors as well. So people, we've got a horribly complicated pension tax system. Things like the tapered annual allowance, which we did see tweaks to, but I think we'd quite like to see more fundamental reform just to make the system more straightforward for people to understand, and that hopefully might help people save more as well.
Yeah, I think obviously over the years, the budget's been quite an exciting time for advisors, where they can obviously take the opportunity of changes in the personal taxation situation to go out and deliver value to their clients. I think this time round, advisors are probably quite relieved there hasn't been any major changes, because of course they're busy out there delivering value by reassuring their clients in what looks like a difficult market, but probably isn't an issue whatsoever for long-term investing. So I guess they're probably relieved, but there are things that still need to be fixed, and I think you can imagine that in a year's time or in future years, some of the things will be fixed, and it's just that they haven't been done today. So of course it also reminds us that a financial planner has to continue to review the plan and review the client on an ongoing basis, because these things will change.
And I think the focus has been on the investment markets, and that's where lots of advisors will be spending their time, is trying to reassure clients and say to them that there's been big fault drops in markets, but for many people, particularly those in the accumulation phase, they can just leave well alone, and people taking an income, it's slightly more a slightly different situation, but most advisors have strategies and ways of dealing with that. So they might take income out of cash and things like that for a shorter period, might reduce income for a period when markets are quite as volatile. So yes, I think advisors are probably quite happy that there's not as much falling out of the budget as because they've got plenty to be going on with.
And obviously coronavirus had to be top of the list really, but did it dominate this year's budget?
I'm not sure it did dominate, but I think it definitely drove quite a bit of the agenda, I think, and there's a lot of you know, there was a lot of very positive spending announcements came out compared to where we were, you know, a few years ago. We were in austerity, we didn't have any money, you know, there was a lack of money to do things, and certainly today we certainly seem to find money to do lots of infrastructure developments and things like that. So some money was certainly found, and the assumption is that's because of what's happening as they're trying to drive the economy forward.
And having looked through the paperwork at the moment, where do you think that money is coming from?
I think it's a very good question. I think as the budget went on, I was probably expecting some measure to come out to try and pull some income in, because there was a lot of expenditure, but we didn't really ever get that. So a lot of expenditure without a great increase in income. So yeah, it'll be interesting over the next couple of years to see how the books balance up.
Brilliant.
I think it's on balance, it's probably more a levelling up budget. I mean, it was clear that they were talking to the whole country. I think from a fiscal perspective, the stimulus is bottom up. So I imagine what they're hoping is that by releasing money into the poorer population, they might spend that quite quickly and therefore drive up and help support the economy from the bottom up. I don't know to what extent that will work. And I think apart from doing that, there will be clearly more borrowing at what will be at lower interest rates in order to firstly see us through this difficult period, but secondly also to deliver on some of their spending promises.
Yeah. So no major surprises like 5 years ago with the pension freedoms then?
Absolutely, yes. We're glad to avoid that. So, and no tax on alcohol, which is always a positive.
Always a bonus. We'll probably need some after today. Thank you both very much for joining us.